On their 5th wedding anniversary, Ethan Miller left work 2 hours early, making a special detour to the Gilded Spoon, a bakery in Lincoln Park that Chloe loved, to pick up a tiramisu. The dessert was elegant and delicate, with "Happy 5th Anniversary" dusted in cocoa powder across the top, flanked by 2 interlocking hearts. With the cake box in one hand, he stopped by a florist to collect the 3 dozen white roses he'd pre-ordered. The owner smiled warmly. "Mr. Miller, your model husband. So thoughtful every single year." Ethan managed a tight smile, but said nothing. Model husband? Maybe. For 5 years, he had done everything in his power to be a good husband and father. Chloe's job as a surgeon at the hospital was demanding, filled with late nights and on-call shifts, so he'd willingly taken on the bulk of the housework and childcare. His own job at a downtown accounting firm was no walk in the park, but he always managed his schedule to do preschool pickups and drop-offs, plan weekend trips to the zoo, and handle bedtime stories. His phone vibrated. A text from Chloe. "Ethan, emergency surgery just came up. I'm going to be late. You guys go ahead and eat without me." Ethan's brow furrowed. He typed back quickly, his thumbs flying across the screen. "It's our anniversary. I already have the cake and flowers. Can you trade shifts with someone?" He stood on the sidewalk for a few minutes after sending it, but no reply came. With a sigh, he dialed her number. It rang 7, 8 times before she finally picked up. "Ethan, I'm really swamped right now. We're about to scrub in," she whispered, her voice low and tense. The faint clatter of surgical instruments echoed in the background. "But today, I know what day it is, but the patient comes first, right? I'll try to finish as early as I can, okay?" A sharp edge of impatience had crept into her tone. Ethan was silent for a beat. "Okay, be safe." After hanging up, he stood frozen on the corner for a moment. This was the 3rd year in a row that an emergency had conveniently appeared on a major holiday. Last year's anniversary, his birthday the year before that. Countless weekend plans had been derailed by some sudden crisis at the hospital. He pulled out his phone and scrolled to David Chun in his contacts. David was his college roommate, now a doctor at the same hospital as Chloe. "Hey Dave, it's Ethan. Sorry to bother you, but I just wanted to ask if there were any major emergency surgeries tonight. Chloe said she got called in for one." "Huh. Their schedule is pretty standard tonight. No traumas came in. Isn't Chloe on the day shift? She should have clocked out hours ago." David's voice was laced with confusion. A cold dread spread from Ethan's toes upward. "Oh, maybe I misheard. Thanks, man. I'll buy you a beer soon." He started to walk home, his steps mechanical. The bouquet of roses suddenly felt impossibly heavy. The 5th anniversary dinner would, once again, just be him and the 2 kids. At 9 o'clock, Ethan finally got 5-year-old Leo and 3-year-old Mia to sleep. Both kids had inherited their mother's wide eyes and fair skin. Leo's expressions, in particular, were a mirror of Chloe's. Watching their peaceful faces, he gently closed the door to their room. He walked into his home office, intending to sort through some files for work the next day. A phone was sitting on the corner of the desk, Chloe's spare, a slightly older Samsung she usually kept with her. She must have forgotten it when she swapped purses. Ethan was about to put it in a drawer when the screen lit up. A text notification popped into view. "Baby, was it safe today? Did he suspect anything? I miss you, especially this afternoon in the on-call room." Ethan's hand hovered in midair, his body rigid as if struck by lightning. He stared at the message. The sender was listed as M. Thorne. The associate dean of Lakeshore University Medical Center, where Chloe worked, was Dr. Marcus Thorne. His fingers trembling, he tried to unlock the phone using Chloe's birthday. Password incorrect. After a moment's hesitation, he tried Leo's birthday. The screen unlocked. For the next 30 minutes, Ethan opened Pandora's box. The photo gallery contained dozens of intimate pictures of Chloe with different men. The earliest timestamp was from 6 years ago, back when they had just started dating. The most recent photos were almost all with them. Thorne. There were pictures in hotel rooms, in a car, and he felt the air leave his lungs, in the master bedroom of the house he and Chloe shared. The iMessage history was even more damning. The conversations between Chloe and Thorne were filled with explicit sexting and plans for their trysts. Scrolling back, Ethan discovered their relationship went back at least 4 years, before Mia was even born. But the message that made him physically sick was from 2 years ago. Thorne had texted, "How's my little man Leo doing, Mrs. Daddy?" Chloe had replied. "He's looking more and more like you every day, especially when he smiles." "Mia too. She got your eyes." Ethan shot up from his chair, sending it crashing to the floor. He stumbled to the bathroom and dry-heaved over the toilet, tears streaming down his face. 5 years of marriage, 2 children, it was all a lie. When he could finally control the shaking, he splashed cold water on his face, returned to the office, and carefully placed the phone back where he'd found it. Then he opened his laptop and Googled paternity testing. At 6 in the morning, Ethan opened his sore, bloodshot eyes. He hadn't slept a wink, the memory of Chloe's spare phone searing his mind like a branding iron. Beside him, his wife slept soundly, her dark hair fanned out on the pillow, the corners of her mouth turned up in a slight smile as if she were having a pleasant dream. Ethan slipped out of bed and went into the bathroom, splashing his face with cold water. The man in the mirror was a stranger, eyes webbed with red, jaw clenched tight. He stared at his reflection and felt a profound sense of dislocation. This face, this life, this marriage, all part of an elaborate fraud. "Ethan, you're up early," Chloe's voice, thick with sleep, drifted from the bedroom. "Big project at the firm. I have to get a head start," he said, forcing his face into a passable smile as he walked back into the bedroom to get dressed. Chloe rolled over, exposing a smooth shoulder. "I got back so late last night, you were already asleep. I'm sorry I missed our anniversary dinner." "It's fine. Patients are more important." Ethan's voice was so steady it surprised even him as he knotted his tie. "I put the tiramisu in the fridge. We can have it tonight." Chloe reached for the spare phone on her nightstand. Ethan watched her out of the corner of his eye. She glanced at the screen, her thumb tapped a few times, and then she set it down and stretched. "I'm on a day shift. I should be home on time tonight," she said, getting up and heading for the bathroom. While she was in the shower, Ethan quickly checked the spare phone. The message that had shattered his world last night was gone. In its place was a new reply from Chloe, sent just moments ago. "Safe. He has no idea. Miss you." 20 minutes later, Ethan was driving Chloe to the hospital. He made small talk, asking about her day, discussing whether they should take the kids to the Lincoln Park Zoo over the weekend, and even humming along to a song on the radio. Chloe seemed completely oblivious to her husband's inner turmoil, giving him a quick, perfunctory kiss when they arrived at the hospital entrance. "See you tonight," Ethan said, smiling until she disappeared through the sliding glass doors. The moment she was gone, the smile vanished. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "Dr. Evans, it's Ethan Miller. Yes, it's been a while. I need your help with something." "Yes, a paternity test. As soon as possible." After the call, Ethan drove to the preschool. Through the wrought iron fence, he saw Leo playing in the sandbox with a group of boys, while Mia sat on a swing, being gently pushed by a teacher. They both had Chloe's wide eyes and fair skin. When Leo laughed, a dimple appeared in his left cheek, a dimple Ethan didn't have. He felt the 2 small Ziploc bags in his pocket, containing the hair samples he collected from their pillows while they slept. For the next 3 days, Ethan played the part of the model husband. He kept his routine, handled preschool runs, cooked dinner, and even gave Chloe shoulder rubs to ease the soreness from her long hours in surgery. Chloe, seemingly reassured, let her guard down. She barely touched her spare phone, at least not at home. On Friday afternoon, a FedEx envelope arrived from the lab. He sat in his parked car, his fingers trembling as he tore it open. The conclusions on the report were stark and unequivocal. The probability of paternity for Ethan Miller as the biological father of Leo Miller is 0%. The probability of paternity for Ethan Miller as the biological father of Mia Miller is 0%. The papers rustled in his hands. He'd been prepared for this, but the black and white finality still felt like a punch to the gut. He gagged, resting his forehead against the steering wheel, and took deep, shuddering breaths. 20 minutes later, he lifted his head. The pain in his eyes was gone, replaced by an icy resolve. He took out a notebook and started making a list. 1. Continue gathering evidence of Chloe's affair. 2. Confirm the identity of the children's biological father. 3. Develop a long-term revenge strategy. 4. Ensure maximum personal gain in the divorce. That night, Ethan told Chloe he had to work late on an urgent audit. After she and the kids were asleep, he crept out of bed and opened her spare phone and laptop. With years of forensic accounting experience, he cracked her passwords in minutes and began systematically downloading evidence. Her cloud storage contained hundreds more photos with Marcus Thorne, spanning 5 years. In one picture from 2 years ago, a pregnant Chloe posed with Thorne at a resort in Napa, his hand resting on her swollen belly. Ethan remembered that weekend. Chloe had claimed she was at a medical conference in San Francisco. The financial records were even more shocking. Over the past 3 years, multiple large wire transfers, totaling over $80,000, had moved from Thorne's account to a secret bank account Chloe maintained. The money had paid for luxury handbags and 2 trips to Europe, trips she had passed off as girls' getaways. At 3 a.m., Ethan encrypted all the evidence and uploaded it to a secure cloud server, then scrubbed his access history from her devices. He stood on the balcony and lit a cigarette, a habit he'd kicked years ago. He calmly pieced together the timeline. Marcus Thorne, 45, associate dean at Lakeshore University Medical Center, married with 2 sons in college at Northwestern. Well-connected in the Chicago medical community, rumored to be the top candidate for the dean position next year. Chloe Davis, 32, attending surgeon, formerly Thorne's resident. Their affair had been going on for at least 6 years, since before Ethan had even proposed. Both kids belonged to Thorne. Chloe had married him, Ethan, to give the children a legitimate name and a stable, picture-perfect home. And Thorne got to have it all, his prestigious career and family intact, with a beautiful young mistress and their children on the side. The cigarette burned down to his fingers, snapping him back to reality. He extinguished it, went back to his office, and opened his laptop. His new search terms were child psychology and parental attachment development. On Saturday morning, Ethan made breakfast for the family, as usual. When Chloe came into the kitchen in her robe, he handed her a warm mug of honey lemon water, her weekend morning ritual. "Thanks," she said, kissing his cheek. "What's the plan for today?" "I was thinking of taking the kids to that new dinosaur exhibit at the Field Museum," Ethan said, flipping pancakes. "Want to come?" Chloe made a face. "Ugh, Dr. Thorne called a last-minute department head meeting to go over next year's attending physician reviews. You know I'm up for that promotion." "Of course. Work is important," Ethan said with a smile. "We'll send you lots of pictures." At the museum, Ethan patiently walked the kids through every exhibit. He took photos of Leo screaming with delight on a simulated T-Rex ride and Mia carefully excavating plastic fossils in a dig pit. After lunch, while the kids were playing in the discovery area, he discreetly collected their used straws and napkins with a wet wipe and sealed them in new Ziploc bags. "Dad, look at my dinosaur drawing," Leo yelled, running over with a piece of paper. Ethan knelt. "That's amazing. He looks very fierce." "He is. He's a T-Rex, and he eats all the bad guys." Leo shadowboxed the air. "Dad, are there really bad guys in the world?" Ethan's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. "Yes, buddy, there are. And some of them look just like regular people, but they lie and cheat and hurt others." "Do the police catch them?" "Not always," Ethan said, straightening Leo's collar. "Some bad guys are very clever and hide for a long time. But in the end, they always get what they deserve." On Sunday night, Ethan met his college friend David Shun for a drink. David was one of the few old friends he kept in close contact with, and was now a psychiatrist at a private practice in the city. "How's it going?" David asked, pouring him a beer. "You look rough." "Just stress at work. It's audit season, you know how it is." David studied him for a moment. "It's more than work, isn't it? Are you and Chloe okay?" "Why do you ask?" "Professional hazard," David shrugged. "When a married guy calls me for a drink out of the blue, 9 times out of 10, it's about his marriage." Ethan swirled the beer in his glass, debating how much to reveal. "If, and this is a hypothetical, if you found out your entire marriage was a lie, what would you do?" "What kind of lie are we talking about?" "Like, the kids aren't yours. Your wife's been cheating for years, and the whole marriage was just a cover." David let out a low whistle. "That's specific. Do you have proof?" Ethan nodded. "Did you call the cops?" "There's no actual crime," Ethan said with a bitter laugh. "Emotional distress and paternity fraud aren't things you can really prosecute." "So what's your plan? Divorce?" Ethan stared at his reflection in the glass. "No, not just divorce. I want them to pay everyone who was in on it." David's brow furrowed. Ethan, listen to me. Revenge sounds satisfying, but it will only end up destroying you, especially when kids are involved. I know what I'm doing. Ethan cut him off. Don't worry, I'm not going to do anything illegal. But you're planning on doing something unethical? A cold, mirthless smile touched Ethan's lips. Fighting fire with fire. What's wrong with that? The problem is it changes you, David said, his voice low. You're angry and hurt, and that's normal. But if you let revenge consume you, you'll become the very thing you hate. Ethan drained his glass. Maybe I was always this person. I just never had a reason to show it. On Monday afternoon, Ethan received the second paternity test report. As expected, Marcus Thorne was the biological father of both Leo and Mia, with a 99% probability for each. Along with the report was a detailed background check on Thorne, his home address, his wife's place of work, the universities his sons attended, even the exclusive golf club he frequented. Ethan locked the report in his office safe. He opened his laptop and began drafting a detailed project plan. He titled it Project Endgame. Timeline, 6 months. It was divided into 4 phases: evidence collection, psychological conditioning, full exposure, and asset resolution. He marked several key dates: Chloe's birthday, 3 weeks away; the hospital's annual awards dinner, 2 months away; and Thorne's older son's graduation, 3 months away. Next to each date, he outlined a specific course of action. Outside, the sun was shining, but inside Ethan's office, it was cold. His eyes were calm and focused, and the sound of his fingers typing on the keyboard was like a countdown clock, ticking steadily toward a conclusion that was already written. A week before Chloe's birthday, Ethan took a half-day off and went to a high-end jewelry store on Michigan Avenue. He carefully selected a diamond necklace, its price tag equivalent to 3 months of his salary. As a clerk was boxing it, he asked for a handwritten card. "To my amazing wife, no matter what happens, I will always be by your side." After leaving the jeweler, Ethan went straight to an electronics store and bought a set of micro cameras and audio recorders. He tested them meticulously, ensuring they could capture clear video and sound. "Would you like a receipt for that, sir?" the cashier asked. "No, thanks. It's for personal use," Ethan said, paying with cash. Back home, before Chloe and the kids returned, he installed the cameras in the spine of a book on the office shelf, inside the base of the bedroom lamp, and tucked into a vase of silk flowers in the living room. He calibrated the monitoring app on his phone, checking every angle. Finally, he synced the location data from Chloe's spare phone to his own device. When he was finished, Ethan stood in the middle of the living room and looked around at the home he had built. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the beige sofa. On the wall hung a family portrait from their beach vacation last year. On the coffee table sat a lopsided flower Mia had made from Play-Doh. It was all so warm and perfect, and it was all a complete fabrication. On the evening of Chloe's birthday, Ethan left work early to cook an elaborate dinner. He placed a jewelry box next to her plate and stuck 32 candles in a birthday cake. Leo and Mia danced around the table, clutching handmade cards for their mom. At 6:30, Chloe texted to say a surgery was running long and she'd be an hour late. Ethan calmed the disappointed children and gave them a few appetizers to tide them over. She finally walked through the door at 7:45, looking exhausted. "Happy birthday!" the kids yelled, running to hug her. Chloe forced a smile and kissed them each on the cheek. "Thanks, sweeties. Mommy just needs to change." Ethan noticed a faint, reddish mark on her neck, like a hickey hastily covered by her collar. He clenched his fists so tightly his nails dug into his palms, but he kept a gentle smile on his face. "Let's do the candles first. The kids have been waiting," he said, pulling out her chair. Chloe looked at the cake and the gift, her expression unreadable. "You went to so much trouble. You deserve it," Ethan said, handing her the knife. "Make a wish." When Chloe opened the jewelry box, her hand visibly trembled. The diamonds glittered under the dining room lights, their facets as cold and hard as Ethan's eyes. "It's too much," she whispered, avoiding his gaze. "Do you like it?" he asked, his voice soft enough to break your heart. Chloe nodded, her eyes suddenly welling with tears. Ethan knew it wasn't gratitude. It was a toxic cocktail of guilt and fear. She had no idea if he knew, and the uncertainty was killing her. After the kids were in bed, Ethan opened a bottle of wine. Chloe sat on the sofa, her fingers tracing the new necklace at her throat. "I have something to tell you," Ethan said suddenly, his voice low. Chloe's body went rigid. "What is it?" Ethan pulled out his phone and showed her a few photos, surveillance stills of her and Marcus Thorne in a hotel lobby, followed by a shot of them entering an elevator together. The date was from last month, the day she claimed to be at a medical seminar. The color drained from her face. The wine glass nearly slipped from her hand. It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" Ethan's voice was still calm, almost curious, as if he were discussing a stranger's life. "Marcus was just. We were discussing a difficult case. The hotel has conference rooms." Her explanation was disjointed and weak as tears began to fall. Ethan set down his wine. He retrieved a folder from his desk drawer, filled with printouts of their text messages, hotel receipts, and the wire transfers from Thorne. "It's been 5 years, Chloe. It started before I even proposed, didn't it?" A tremor finally entered his voice. "Leo and Mia, they aren't mine, are they?" Chloe looked as if she'd been struck by lightning. She slumped against the sofa cushions, her mouth opening and closing silently as sobs racked her body. Ethan waited, watching every flicker of emotion cross her face. Fear, shame, despair, and finally, a flicker of resolve. "I'm sorry," she finally choked out. "I was going to tell you." "When?" Ethan asked with a cold laugh. "When the kids went to college? On our 50th anniversary? Or when Marcus finally decided to leave his wife for you?" Chloe's head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock. She hadn't realized he knew who Thorne was. I didn't know what to do," she sobbed. "Marcus said he couldn't get a divorce. It would derail his career. But then I got pregnant, and you were so good to me. So you chose me to be the fall guy," Ethan finished for her. "The stable, dependable fool who would marry you and give his name to another man's children." She fell to her knees, grabbing his hands. "Forgive me. Please. For the kids." Ethan looked down at her. He had fantasized about this moment for months, the breakdown, the begging. It was supposed to feel triumphant, but all he felt was a vast, hollow emptiness. He took a deep breath and began the performance he'd rehearsed 100 times. "Get up," he said softly, helping her back onto the sofa. "I forgive you." Chloe stared at him, her tear-streaked face a mask of disbelief. "What?" "I said, I forgive you," Ethan repeated, his voice gentle but firm. "For the kids. They're too young. They need a family." Her eyes widened. But there are 3 conditions," Ethan said, holding up 3 fingers. 1, you end it with Marcus immediately. 2, we start marriage counseling. And 3, we never, ever tell the children the truth. Chloe nodded frantically, grabbing onto his words like a lifeline. "I'll do it. I'll do anything you want." Ethan pulled her into an embrace, stroking her back as if comforting a child who had misbehaved. She wept into his shoulder, and over her head his eyes found the tiny, dark lens of the camera on the bookshelf. A cold, imperceptible smile touched his lips. That night, emotionally exhausted, Chloe fell asleep early. Ethan sat in his office, rewatching the video of their conversation. He played the clip of her breakdown and begging on a loop, then encrypted the file and saved it to a hidden folder named Birthday Gift. The next morning, Ethan was up an hour earlier than usual. He made a big breakfast and got the kids dressed, acting as if the previous night's confrontation had never happened. When Chloe emerged from the bedroom, her eyes puffy and red, he was placing a plate of pancakes on the table. "Sleep okay?" he asked with a smile, as if he were asking about the weather. She nodded nervously, unable to meet his eyes. Throughout breakfast, she was a bundle of nerves, flinching at his every move. After dropping the kids at preschool, Ethan drove to the law offices of Carter and Dunn. His college friend Ben Carter was a partner specializing in family law. "So that's the situation," Ethan explained, omitting the details of his revenge plot. "I just need to know how to protect my assets when the time comes." Ben pushed his glasses up his nose. Paternity fraud is tough to litigate, but long-term infidelity and her hiding significant financial assets from Thorne, those are solid grounds. "Are you sure you want to go through with a divorce?" "Not yet," Ethan said with a cryptic smile. "I need to gather a little more evidence first." From the law firm, Ethan went back to the electronics store and bought several more, even smaller cameras. He planned to have one installed in Chloe's car and another in the hospital locker room. He had already bribed a maintenance worker to help him. Over the next 2 weeks, Ethan was the perfect husband. He did all the cooking and cleaning, drove Chloe to and from work, and even brought her hot meals when she was on the night shift. Her colleagues called him a saint. Under the weight of his relentless kindness, Chloe's vigilance began to crumble. But Ethan's cameras told a different story. On day 3, she was back in contact with Thorne. They met in an empty on-call room. They kissed passionately in her car. They discussed how to handle Ethan if he ever got suspicious. He actually bought it. Thorne's voice, captured on the audio recording, was mocking. "Looks like your husband isn't just a cuckold, he's an idiot." Chloe laughed and playfully slapped his arm. "Don't say that. He's just too trusting. Works for me," Thorne said as his hands roamed over her body. "We just lay low for a while, and then everything goes back to normal. He'll never know." Ethan closed the video file, his face a stone mask. He opened another document, a collection of fairy tales he had written for Leo and Mia. The latest was about a kind wolf who adopts 2 lost lambs, whose real father is a wicked fox who tricks all the other animals. Why didn't the fox daddy want the lambs? Mia had asked last night, her big eyes wide. Because the fox daddy only cared about himself. Ethan had explained gently, stroking her hair. He didn't care about the lambs or their mommy. Some daddies are just selfish like that. But not our daddy, Leo had declared proudly. Ethan had pulled him into a hug. Of course not. Daddy will always love you. He had recorded that conversation, too, saving it as evidence of psychological conditioning. That weekend, Thorne texted Chloe, suggesting they take the kids to the park, something he did occasionally, playing the role of Uncle Marcus. In the past, Ethan had always made an excuse to stay home. This time, he enthusiastically agreed to a family outing. "I thought you had that project deadline," Chloe said, surprised. "Family comes first," Ethan replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. At the park, Ethan watched Thorne's interactions with the children like a hawk. Thorne clearly favored Leo, tossing him in the air and putting him on his shoulders, while Mia was mostly ignored. Chloe hovered nervously nearby, terrified of a slip-up. "Uncle Marcus is really nice to you," Ethan said conversationally to Leo. "Does he play with you like this a lot?" Leo nodded innocently. "Yep, Uncle Marcus took me to the zoo and bought me a transformer. The really big one." Ethan feigned surprise. "Wow, I didn't know that. Did Mommy take you to see him?" "Sometimes Mommy, and sometimes Uncle Marcus picks me up by himself," Leo answered without a hint of guile. "He said it was our secret, and I shouldn't tell Daddy. But you know now, so it's okay, right?" Ethan fought back a wave of rage and forced a smile. "Of course it's okay. But Uncle Marcus is a very busy man. He might not have time to play with you so often anymore." "Why not?" "Because..." Ethan pretended to think. "I heard Uncle Marcus has a lot of other little boys and girls he has to play with. He probably can't spend all his time with just one." Leo's face fell. "Other kids. Daddy's just being silly," Chloe interjected, her face pale. She shot a panicked look at Thorne. Thorne walked over and scooped Leo up. "Of course not. Uncle Marcus likes you the best." As Thorne said this, Ethan saw his eyes drift to a young woman in a short skirt jogging past. He discreetly took a picture with his phone. On the drive home, Ethan took a deliberate detour past a local coffee shop. Through the large glass window, Thorne was clearly visible at a small table with the same young woman from the park, their heads close together, his arm draped casually over the back of her chair. "Hey, isn't that Uncle Marcus?" Ethan said, feigning surprise. "I thought he had to rush back to the hospital for an emergency." Leo pressed his face against the car window. He saw Thorne lean over and whisper something in the woman's ear, making her laugh. A 5-year-old might not understand the complexities of adultery, but he understood a broken promise. "Oncle Marcus liegt," Leo whispered, his lower lip trembling. In the back seat, Chloe was silent, her face a mask of fury. That night, Ethan told Leo a new story about a sly fox who pretended to love only one little lamb, but secretly had many other animal friends. In the end, the fox's lies were discovered, and none of the animals trusted him anymore. "Why can't the fox just love one lamb?" Leo asked sleepily. "Because some people, like some foxes, don't know what real love is," Ethan said, kissing his son's forehead. "Good night, buddy." As he left the kids' room, he found Chloe standing in the shadows of the hallway, her eyes glittering with anger and fear. "What are you doing?" she hissed. "Why are you telling him those things?" "It's just a fairy tale," Ethan said with a shrug. "What's the problem?" Chloe stared at him for a long moment, then turned and went into their bedroom without another word. He knew she was starting to suspect, but that was exactly what he wanted. To keep her in a constant state of anxiety and doubt, to slowly, methodically break her down. He went back to his office and opened his laptop to edit the day's photos and videos. He zoomed in on the picture of Thorn with a young woman, adding a timestamp and a caption before saving it to a folder labeled Educational Materials. Then he opened a new document and began detailing the children's daily reactions and verbal cues. Under the heading Project Status, he wrote with cold precision, Phase 1 objectives met. Subject A, Leo, has begun to exhibit suspicion toward the target individual. Subject B, Mia, requires more time due to age. Full cognitive restructuring of the paternal relationship is projected to be complete within 3 months. He saved the document and stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. The gears of his revenge were turning, and he, the wronged husband, was calmly in control of every single cog, moving steadily toward the inevitable, explosive end. Hashtag Chapter 4 on the pediatric floor of Lakeshore University Medical Center. Ethan Miller held 5-year-old Leo's hand as they approached the nurse's station. The boys' preschool was hosting a Little Doctor for a Day event, and Ethan had taken the day off to chaperone. Dressed in a dark blue button-down shirt, he projected the image of a perfectly ordinary, devoted father. "Dad, do I really get to wear a white coat?" Leo asked, his big eyes sparkling with excitement. "You sure do, Dr. Leo," Ethan said, ruffling his son's hair while glancing at his watch. 10:15 a.m. If his information on Marcus Thorne's schedule was correct, the associate dean will be finishing his weekly administrative meeting in 10 minutes and heading to his private lounge on the 3rd floor. The head nurse greeted them warmly, dressing Leo and 5 other children in miniature white coats and handing them toy stethoscopes. Ethan stood off to the side, periodically taking pictures with his phone to document the precious moment, while actually keeping an eye on the elevators down the hall. At 10:22, the elevator doors opened and Thorne stepped out, looking at a file in his hands. He was wearing a crisp white coat with his name and title embroidered on the chest. Ethan noted that his hair was perfectly styled and he smelled faintly of expensive cologne, overdressed for a routine Tuesday. "Uncle Marcus!" Leo suddenly shouted, pulling his hand from Ethan's and running toward him. Thorne looked up, a flash of surprise crossing his face before it settled into a practiced, professional smile. "Well, hello there, Leo. What are you doing here?" "My preschool is visiting. Dad brought me," Leo said, pointing proudly back at Ethan. Thorne's gaze met Ethan's across the hallway. The two men exchanged a curt nod. Ethan walked over, extending a hand. "Dr. Thorne, good to see you." Thorne hesitated for a split second before shaking it. "Mr. Miller, I didn't expect to see you. It's a parent-child activity. You know how it is," Ethan said with an easy smile. "Chloe had a major surgery scheduled, so I stepped in." A flicker of unease appeared in Thorne's eyes. He crouched down to Leo's level. "Listen, buddy, Uncle Marcus is really busy right now. I'll come find you later, okay?" "But," Leo's face fell. Ethan interjected smoothly, "Of course, Dar. Thorne has important work to do, running a big hospital like this." He turned to Leo. "We shouldn't bother him, champ." Thorne visibly relaxed, gave Leo's head a quick pat, and walked away, taking the stairs instead of the elevator. Ethan smiled to himself. The 3rd-floor lounge was just off the stairwell. Halfway through the tour, as the nurse was showing the kids a treatment room, Ethan discreetly passed a small spy camera to Leo. "Can you do Daddy a favor?" he whispered. "This is a secret agent camera. I need you to go over to that stairwell and take some pictures, just like in our spy game. But you have to be super quiet so no one sees you, okay?" Leo's eyes lit up. He nodded eagerly and hid the tiny camera in the pocket of his white coat. Ethan told the head nurse his son needed the restroom, then followed him from a distance. Peeking through the fire door, which was propped slightly ajar, Ethan saw Thorne talking intimately with a young nurse on the landing. The woman was wearing a tight-fitting dress, not scrubs, and Thorne had his hand on the small of her back. Hidden behind the door, Leo aimed the camera and pressed the button, just as his dad had shown him. At that moment, the nurse stood on her toes and kissed Thorne, who pinned her against the wall. Leo gasped, accidentally bumping the heavy door. "Who's there?" Thorne called out, looking up sharply. Ethan ducked around the corner. Leo was frozen in the doorway, the camera still clutched in his hand. Thorne strode over, his expression changing from annoyance to shock when he saw the boy. "Leo, what are you doing here?" Thorne tried to block the nurse, but she was already scrambling away down the opposite set of stairs. Leo's lip trembled. "Uncle Marcus, were you playing a game with that lady?" Thorne crouched down, forcing a smile. "That lady, she had something in her eye. Uncle Marcus was just helping her get it out." "But you were." Leo looked down at the camera in his hand, which held a perfect, clear image of them kissing. Thorne's eyes fell on the camera, and his face darkened. He reached for it. "Give that to me." Leo took a step back, then turned and ran. Thorne started after him, but stopped short when he saw Ethan emerge from around the corner, feigning surprise. "Dr. Thorne," Ethan said, his face a mask of concern. "What happened? Why did Leo run off like that?" Thorne looked like he had swallowed a bug. "Mr. Miller, it was a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding about what?" Ethan asked innocently. "I was just looking for my son. He said he was going to the restroom, and then he took off." Thorne opened and closed his mouth, finally managing a stiff smile. "It's nothing. Kids, you know. I have a meeting to get to." Ethan watched Thorne's hasty retreat, a cold glint in his eye. He found Leo hiding behind the nurse's station, the camera clutched in his small fist. "Dad," Leo whispered, burying his face in Ethan's legs. Ethan picked him up. "What's wrong, buddy? Did you get any cool pictures?" Leo hesitated before handing him the camera. The screen showed the crystal-clear photo of Thorne and the nurse. Ethan widened his eyes in mock surprise. "Is that Uncle Marcus?" He said he was helping the lady with her eye. Leo mumbled, "But they were kissing. Like on TV." Ethan sighed, pulling his son into a tight hug. "Sometimes, buddy, grown-ups tell lies to cover up the things they do." "Is Uncle Marcus a bad guy?" Ethan didn't answer directly. "What do you think?" Leo thought for a moment, then slowly nodded. "He lied. Mom says people who lie are bad. Sometimes grown-ups do bad things too," Ethan said gently. "The important thing is to learn who you can really trust." On the drive home, Leo was unusually quiet. Ethan knew the seed of doubt had been planted. He checked his phone and saw a text from Chloe saying she had to work late again. "Mommy has been so busy lately," Ethan said casually. "Do you miss her?" "Yeah," Leo said, slumped in his car seat. "But it's okay when you're with me." A sharp, unexpected pang of guilt hit Ethan, but he quickly pushed it down. He turned on the radio, playing Leo's favorite songs while mentally updating his Project Endgame status. Subject: Leo's successful primary exposure to target's misconduct. Cognitive dissonance initiated. Follow-up reinforcement required. That night, Chloe came home late. Ethan pretended to be working in his office, but was actually watching her on the hidden cameras. She looked exhausted as she went through the motions of her nightly routine, stopping to peek into the kids' room. She stood over Leo's bed for a long time, her fingers gently tracing the eyebrows that were so much like Thorne's. Ethan saved the footage, labeling it maternal interaction, guilt manifestation. The next morning at breakfast, Leo suddenly asked Chloe, "Mom, does Uncle Marcus have a lot of girlfriends?" The spoon slipped from Chloe's hand, clattering against the table. "What? Who told you that?" "I saw him kissing a lady in the stairwell yesterday," Leo said plainly. "But he said he was helping her get something out of her eye." The color drained from Chloe's face. She shot a venomous look at Ethan. "Leo's preschool had a field trip to the hospital yesterday," Ethan explained calmly. "He wandered off to the stairwell and came back pretty upset." You took him?" Chloe's voice trembled. Ethan feigned confusion. "Yeah, you said you had surgery. Is there a problem?" Chloe's mouth opened, but no words came out. She lowered her head and continued eating, her knuckles white as she gripped her spoon. After dropping the kids off, Chloe, for the first time in months, asked Ethan for a ride to the hospital instead of driving herself. "We need to talk," she said in a low voice the moment they were in the car. "About yesterday." "What about it?" Ethan asked, playing dumb. Don't play dumb, she snapped. You took Leo to see Marcus on purpose, didn't you? What are you planning? Ethan pulled the car over. He turned to face her, his expression a perfect blend of hurt and confusion. I have no idea what you're talking about. The field trip was on the school calendar for 2 weeks. You knew about it. Leo running into Thorne was a coincidence. But the camera? What camera? Chloe bit her lip, debating how much to say. Leo said. He took a picture with a camera. Ethan's face cleared in mock realization. Oh, that thing. It's a toy camera I bought him. He's been obsessed with it. Why? Is there a problem with the picture? Chloe stared into his eyes, searching for a lie. But his performance was flawless, his brow furrowed, his gaze open and honest, tinged with concern for her erratic behavior. No, nothing, she finally conceded. I was just worried about him wandering off. Ethan started the car again, a ghost of a smile on his lips. He knew Chloe was now trapped in a state of paranoia, unable to confirm what happened with Thorne and unsure of how much Ethan himself knew. The uncertainty would eat away at her, making her careless. And her mistakes were exactly what he needed. Over the next week, Ethan escalated his surveillance. He got a tip from an internal source that Thorne was meeting frequently with pharmaceutical reps, including one particularly young and attractive woman. Ethan paid off a parking garage attendant to install a camera near Thorne's reserved spot. It paid off. On Friday afternoon, the camera captured Thorne and the female rep in a heated makeout session in his car, followed by a thick envelope passing from her hands to his briefcase. It was more than just an affair. It was bribery. The stakes had just been raised. Meanwhile, he continued the psychological campaign at home. The bedtime stories became more pointed. The cheating fox, the irresponsible wolf, the lion who abandoned his cubs. Leo started talking about bad daddies in his sleep. Mia, though too young to understand the subtext, began repeating phrases like, lying is bad. On Saturday morning, Leo ran into the kitchen with a drawing. Dad, look what I drew. Ethan looked down, and his breath caught. The picture showed 3 figures. A larger boy was holding a woman's hand. Next to them stood a man in a white coat, his face scribbled over in black crayon with a large red X drawn through his body. Who is this? Ethan asked, though he already knew. That's me and Mommy, Leo explained, pointing, and that's Uncle Marcus. But he's a bad guy. He lied, and he kisses other ladies. Ethan knelt to be at eye level with his son. Honey, why do you think he's a bad guy? Because he lies, and he makes Mommy cry, Leo said with 5-year-old certainty. Last night, when you were working late, Mommy was in her room looking at her phone and crying. I asked her what was wrong, and she said Uncle Marcus broke another promise. Ethan's heart hammered in his chest, a crack in their alliance. He hugged Leo gently. Mommy might just be tired from work, but I'm proud of you for being so caring. He carefully folded the drawing and put it in his pocket. It would be powerful evidence in a courtroom, a child's depiction of fear and rejection of his biological father. That afternoon, while Chloe took Mia to a ballet class, Ethan sat down with Leo and the family photo albums. He opened to a picture from his wedding. Do you remember when Mommy and Daddy got married? He asked. Leo shook his head. I wasn't born yet. That's right. But from the first moment I saw your Mommy, I loved her and I promised I would always protect her and make her happy. And you did, Leo said proudly. You're the best daddy in the world. A lump formed in Ethan's throat, but he pushed on. But Leo, not all daddies are the same. Some daddies, they don't know how to love a family forever. Like Uncle Marcus? Leo asked shrewdly. Ethan didn't answer directly. He turned the page. Look, this is the day you were born. The first time I ever held you. Remember I told you, when you were in Mommy's tummy, I read you a story every single night. I remember, Leo said excitedly. I love your stories. What if? Ethan chose his words carefully. What if there was someone who wasn't your real daddy, but he pretended to be nice to you, while he was secretly hurting your Mommy? What would you do? Leo's small face grew serious. I would protect Mommy, just like you protect us. Ethan pulled him into a hug, hiding his own expression, a mixture of triumph and guilt. He was manipulating a child's love, but the cold satisfaction of his impending victory overwhelmed his conscience. That evening, Chloe came to his office. She looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes. Ethan, "We need to talk," she said, her voice raspy. "About us." He closed his laptop, where he'd been reviewing the footage of Thorne's bribe. "What about us?" She took a deep breath. I want a divorce." He raised an eyebrow. This was sooner than he'd expected. Why the sudden change of heart? "It's not sudden," she said, twisting her hands. "There's nothing left between us, is there? You've known for a while." "About Marcus?" Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying her. She didn't look guilty or angry. She looked relieved. "Did he finally promise to marry you?" he asked bluntly. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with panic. How did I know?" Ethan gave a cold laugh. "Because you've been looking at real estate listings and preschool transfer applications for the past week. Why else would you be doing that?" Her lip trembled. You just what? Finally got him to commit? Or did you just get tired of juggling two men?" Chloe finally broke. "Do you think I wanted this? 5 years. I've been living a lie for 5 years. He kept promising he would leave his wife, that he would give us a real family, but it was always just wait a little longer. I'm done." Ethan calmly turned his laptop around. On the screen was the video of Thorne kissing the pharmaceutical rep in his car. "Are you sure he wants to marry you? Or are you just one of many?" Chloe stared at the screen, her face turning ashen. You followed him. I just wanted to see what kind of man was worth destroying our marriage for," Ethan said, closing the laptop. "Turns out, not much." She suddenly fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Ethan, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But the kids? What about the kids? Are you going to tell me I should keep pretending they're mine? Keep raising Marcus Thorne's children so you three can have a happy family reunion someday?" She looked up, stunned. How long have you known?" "Long enough," he said, standing over her. "Long enough to gather all the evidence. Long enough to plan for the divorce. And long enough for the kids to start wondering what kind of man their Uncle Marcus really is." Her expression shifted from shock to terror. "What have you done to the children?" "Me?" Ethan held up his hands in mock innocence. "I just told them a few stories about honesty and responsibility. They drew their own conclusions." "You can't do this," she said, scrambling to her feet. "They're innocent." "So was I," he shot back. "But I was the one who was betrayed." "Why?" "Because I was easy. Because you thought I'd be the loving, clueless husband forever." Chloe had no answer, only sobs. Ethan walked back to his desk and pulled out a document. "This is a draft of the divorce agreement. You can have your lawyer look at it, but I wouldn't recommend making any changes. After all," he glanced meaningfully up toward the kids' rooms, "you wouldn't want the truth about their paternity to come out this way, would you?" Chloe took the papers, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold them. When she saw the clause about custody, she looked up horrified. "You're going to take Leo and Mia away from me?" "No," Ethan said with a smile that held no warmth. "I'm going to give them back to you. And to Marcus. A family should be together, after all. Isn't that right?" The fear in her eyes deepened. What do you really want?" "It's simple," Ethan whispered. "I want all 3 of you to pet. ###Chapter 5. The child psychology textbook lay open on the desk, Ethan's finger resting on a chapter titled Cognitive Restructuring Techniques. He'd highlighted a key passage. Repeated exposure to a specific narrative can reshape a child's perception of reality, particularly regarding emotional attachment figures. He closed the book and opened a folder on his computer labeled Educational Materials. It contained a curated collection of fairy tales, cartoons, and game ideas, all subtly modified to feature a bad daddy character. He clicked on his latest revision, The 3 Little Pigs. In this version, the big bad wolf wasn't just a predator. He was an absentee father who had abandoned his own little wolf cubs. The story ended with the pigs building their strong brick house, not just to protect themselves, but to keep the bad daddy out forever. The printer hummed, spitting out several colorfully illustrated pages. Ethan put them in a folder and checked his watch. 9 p.m. Chloe had just texted to say she was working late again. Perfect timing for a new story. In the kids' room, Mia was already dozing off, clutching her stuffed bunny. Leo was fighting sleep, waiting for his story. Ethan sat on the rug between their small beds. "Tonight, we have a new story," he said softly. "The 3 Little Pigs and the Big Bad Daddy Wolf." Leo perked up. "Is it different from the one we know?" "Every story has a different lesson," Ethan said with a smile, and began to read. Halfway through, when the wolf character abandoned his family to chase after younger, prettier she-wolves, Leo interrupted. Is that like Uncle Marcus? Ethan feigned surprise. Why would you say that, buddy? Because he has other lady friends, Leo said, his small face scrunched in concentration. And he makes mommy cry. Mia rubbed her eyes. Is Uncle Marcus a bad guy? Instead of answering directly, Ethan closed the storybook. What do you guys think makes a good daddy? Like you, Mia said immediately, her small hand reaching for his. Leo thought for a moment. A good daddy loves only one family. He doesn't lie, and he doesn't make mommy sad. A knot tightened in Ethan's chest, but he kept his composure. This was the goal, for the children to form their own conclusions, guided by his invisible hand. Everyone makes mistakes, Ethan said, his voice deliberately gentle. The important thing is to know who truly loves us. Uncle Marcus doesn't love us, Leo said with sudden, startling certainty. He doesn't even remember Mia's birthday. Mommy said he was going to take us out to celebrate, but then he said he had to work. This was new information. Chloe was still trying to arrange family outings with Thorn. Her delusion ran deeper than he thought. That's too bad, Ethan said softly. But Daddy will never, ever miss your birthdays. You know why? The two small heads shook in the dim light. Because you're the most important people in my whole world, he said, kissing each of them on the forehead. Okay, time for sleep. After turning off the light, Ethan stood in the hallway, listening through the cracked door. As he'd expected, they weren't sleeping. They were whispering. I think our real dad is a bad guy, Leo's small voice said. But we have a dad, Mia replied, confused. Not this dad. The other one. Ethan quietly closed the door, a cold smile on his face. Back in his office, he updated his project log. Subject Leo has established a negative cognitive framework for the target individual and is now making independent, negative associations. Subject B, Mia, despite age, is showing similar tendencies through emotional mirroring. Strategy, reinforced with concrete examples. He then opened another encrypted folder containing the materials he was preparing for the hospital's ethics committee. Over the past 2 weeks, his sources had fed him more evidence of Thorn's corruption. Clear video of him taking cash from a pharma rep, bank records, and damning discrepancies in the hospital's pharmacy procurement data. He carefully composed the anonymous tip-off letter. To the members of the ethics committee, as a concerned employee of this hospital, I can no longer stay silent about the unethical and potentially illegal activities of Associate Dean Marcus Thorn. I have attached the following evidence for your review. 1. Video of Dr. Thorn accepting a cash bribe from a representative of XX Pharmaceuticals. 2. A comparative analysis of high-cost drug acquisitions approved by Dr. Thorn and corresponding deposits into his personal accounts. 3. Internal email correspondence showing Dr. Thorn using his influence to award a hospital renovation contract to a company owned by his brother-in-law. I trust you will investigate this matter thoroughly and restore integrity to our institution. He saved the files to a thumb drive. He didn't expect one letter to bring Thorn down, but it would be enough to trigger an official investigation. And an investigation created pressure. Pressure made people make mistakes. The next morning, Ethan got up an hour early. He drove to a neighborhood on the other side of the city and dropped the envelope into a mailbox, part of a pre-planned dead drop system to ensure the package was untraceable. On his way home, he stopped at Chloe's favorite bakery for fresh bagels. She was just getting up when he arrived, and she stared at the breakfast on the table, instantly suspicious. What's all this? You seem so tired lately, Ethan said, handing her a mug of coffee. Everything okay at the hospital? She took the mug, her eyes darting away. It's fine. Dr. Thorn seems to be in some kind of trouble, though. The whole administration floor is on edge. Oh, what kind of trouble? Ethan asked nonchalantly, spreading cream cheese on a bagel for Leo. Someone reported him. For financial misconduct, she said, her voice dropping. The ethics committee is investigating. Ethan put on a look of surprise. Wow, that's serious. But I'm sure if he's innocent, he has nothing to worry about. Chloe's knuckles were white around her mug. I hope so. He noted the dark circles under her eyes were even more pronounced. The investigation was clearly making her anxious, which was perfect. He'd already seen from pharmacy records that she'd been refilling prescriptions for anti-anxiety medication. "Mommy, are you going to eat?" Leo asked, pointing at her untouched bagel. She forced a smile. "Mommy's not hungry. You eat up so Daddy can take you to school." "Daddy takes us every day," Leo announced proudly. "He even knows all my teachers' names." "Does Uncle Marcus?" Ethan asked casually. Leo's face fell. "No. The last time he picked me up, he didn't even know which classroom I was in." Chloe's head snapped up, her eyes wide with alarm. "When did Marcus pick him up from school?" "Last month," Leo answered innocently. "You told me he was coming and to wait for him, remember? But he went the wrong class, and my teacher had to find him." Chloe's face went pale. Ethan knew why. It was proof of how little Thorne actually cared, a detail Chloe clearly hadn't known. "Eat up, kids, we're going to be late," Ethan said, breaking the tension. He helped Mia wipe milk off her chin, leaving Chloe to sit alone with her thoughts. After school drop-off, Ethan didn't go to the office. He went to a private investigator's office downtown. The PI, Rick Snyder, was an old college acquaintance and one of the few people who knew the full scope of Ethan's plan. "New intel," Ethan said, sliding an envelope across the desk. "Video of Thorne's bribe and his hotel receipts for the last 3 months." Rick whistled. "This guy gets around. He was with 2 different women last week. Does Chloe know?" "Doesn't look like it," Rick said, flipping through photos. "She's been pressuring him to finalize his divorce, but he's hitting a wall. His wife is getting suspicious, started looking at his financials." Ethan smirked. Perfect timing for an ethics investigation. "You sure about this?" Rick asked, his tone serious. Once the committee gets involved, Chloe could get caught in the crossfire. Her special relationship with Thorne isn't exactly a state secret at that hospital. Ethan's gaze turned to ice. "She should have thought of that before she betrayed me." "And the kids?" Rick pressed. "If they ever find out you're the one who blew the whistle." "They won't," Ethan said, standing up. "And by the time this is over, they'll know exactly what kind of man Marcus Thorne is." Back at his desk, Ethan monitored the situation remotely. Through Chloe's spare phone, he saw a flurry of panicked texts from Thorne, ranging from "How could the committee know about that?" to "We need to get our story straight." At noon, a text from Rick came in. "Committee just called Thorne in for an interview. The hospital is buzzing." Ethan replied, "Keep watching. I want to know who he talks to." At 3 p.m., Chloe called, her voice frantic. "Ethan, I have to work really late tonight. Something came up at the hospital." "What is it?" "Do you need my help?" he asked, feigning concern. "No, it's just an emergency meeting. Can you get the kids?" "Of course," he said smoothly. "Don't worry about a thing here. Just focus on work." He knew the investigation was closing in, and Chloe was being pulled into the vortex. He opened the live feed from the camera he'd recently installed in the kids' room. Leo and Mia were on the floor, building a tower of blocks, oblivious. After work, he picked up the kids, made dinner, and gave them their baths. By 8 p.m., Chloe still wasn't home and hadn't texted. Leo kept asking where Mommy was, and Mia started to get fussy. "Mommy's working hard, and we have to be understanding," Ethan said patiently. "How about a new story? It's about a little tadpole looking for its mommy." In his version, the tadpoles couldn't find their mother because she was always busy meeting with different uncles. In the end, a kind fish adopted them and gave them a stable home. Halfway through, Leo said, "Dad, I think you're like the big fish." A sharp, unexpected pain lanced through Ethan's chest. "Why do you say that?" "Because you're always with us. Mommy is always working." Leo's head drooped. "And Uncle Marcus promised to take me to the zoo again, but he never does." Ethan pulled them both into a hug, hiding his face. His plan had been to subtly undermine Chloe, but he hadn't anticipated the children casting him as the rescuer. It was uncomfortably close to the truth he was trying to build. "Daddy will always love you," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "No matter what happens, you remember that." After they were asleep, Ethan sat in the dark living room, staring at his phone. Chloe's location showed she was still at the hospital, in the same spot for 3 hours, right next to Thorne's office. At midnight, he finally heard a key in the lock. Chloe stumbled in, her face pale and her eyes red and swollen. Her clothes were disheveled, and she looked like she'd been through a war. "You're still up?" she said, startled. Waiting for you, Ethan said calmly. The kids asked about you. Her lip trembled. My phone died. What happened at the hospital? As if his question had severed the last thread holding her together, she collapsed onto the sofa. Marcus. They suspended him. The committee questioned him for 6 hours. They have so much evidence. Does that have anything to do with you? Ethan asked, his voice carefully neutral. I don't know. She broke down, sobbing. They asked me so many questions. About my relationship with him, about pharmacy procurement. I'm so scared. He sat next to her, patting her back like he was comforting a child. If you didn't do anything wrong, you have nothing to be afraid of. She looked up, her eyes desperate. Ethan, if you found out I did something really, really bad, would you hate me? He met her gaze and slowly shook his head. No, because I already know. She froze, the color draining from her face. What? What do you mean? I know about you and Marcus. I know about the kids. I know about every single lie, he said, his voice terrifyingly calm. But I chose to forgive you, remember? She looked at him as if seeing him for the first time, her expression shifting from confusion to raw fear. Then why? Why are you still? Because family is important, he said, standing up. Go take a shower. You look awful. You still have to take the kids to school tomorrow. She nodded mechanically and shuffled toward the bathroom. Ethan went back to his office and logged the day's events. Ethics investigation has officially begun. Target A, Thorne, is in crisis mode, likely to make rash decisions. Target B, Chloe, is nearing emotional breaking point, decisive action anticipated within 72 hours. Subject A, Leo, cognitive restructuring is ahead of schedule. Subject now generating his own negative associations. He saved the file and opened his desk drawer, taking out a framed family photo from their vacation last summer. For smiling faces, the picture of happiness. Now, that picture was just a snapshot of a sandcastle, beautifully constructed just before the tide came in to wash it all away. And he was the one controlling the tide. Ethan's phone buzzed in the middle of a department meeting. The caller ID read, Lakeshore Prep, Ms. Albright. His heart skipped a beat. Unscheduled calls from the school meant one thing, a deviation from the plan. Sorry, I have to take this, he murmured to his colleagues, stepping into the hallway. Ms. Albright, hi, this is Leo Miller's father. Mr. Miller, hello. The teacher's voice was strained. Could you please come to the school as soon as you can? It's about Leo. There's a situation we need to discuss in person. What happened? Is he okay? Ethan's mind raced. What did he say? Did he get hurt? During art class, Leo drew a rather concerning picture, she said, choosing her words carefully. We're a little worried. Can you come now? I'll be there in 20 minutes. He made a quick excuse to his team and headed for the parking garage. On the drive, his mind was a whirlwind. A picture. What could he have drawn? Did I make the stories too explicit? At the preschool, Ms. Albright and the director, Mrs. Peterson, sat waiting for him, their faces grim. Leo was sitting in a small chair in the corner, staring at his shoes. The moment he saw Ethan, he ran and buried his face in his father's leg. Daddy! Ethan knelt, meeting his son's eyes. It's okay, buddy. Daddy's here. He looked up at the two women. Can you tell me what's going on? Mrs. Peterson slid a piece of drawing paper across the table. It depicted a large black stick figure hitting a smaller red one, while a tiny blue figure stood off to the side, crying. In the corner, a yellow sun had been scribbled over with black crayon. This was Leo's project for art class today, the director said quietly. The assignment was my family. Leo's drawing was alarming. Ethan studied the drawing, his initial panic subsiding. He recognized his son's artistic signatures. The black figure was Thorne, Leo always colored in black now. The red was Chloe, and the blue, Leo himself. This was exactly the outcome he'd engineered, just manifesting in a way he hadn't predicted. Leo, can you tell Daddy what you drew? He asked gently. Leo mumbled into his father's shirt. It's the bad daddy hitting mommy, and I'm crying. The two educators exchanged a worried glance. Ethan took a deep breath and launched into the performance he'd been subconsciously preparing for months. I see, he said, managing a pained, weary smile as he pulled Leo onto his lap. What you may not know is that my wife, she has a complicated past. Their expressions immediately softened with a mixture of sympathy and curiosity. Ethan pressed on. Before Leo was born, she was in a relationship with another man. A man who was not a good person. We never speak of him, but I suspect Leo may have overheard something from a relative. So the bad daddy in the picture isn't you? Ms. Albright asked, relieved. God, no. Ethan acted shocked and hurt. Leo, has daddy ever hit mommy? Leo shook his head vehemently, clinging to Ethan's neck. Daddy is the best. It's the other daddy. Ethan inwardly celebrated. The child had seamlessly integrated the concept of two daddies, the result of months of careful psychological suggestion. I understand, Mrs. Peterson said, visibly relaxing. These situations are, unfortunately, not uncommon in modern families. Our main concern was the possibility of domestic violence. Ethan finished for her, a bitter smile on his face. No, I can assure you, there is absolutely none of that in our home. But the boy has likely heard stories about his biological father and created this image in his mind. Would you like us to arrange a session with our child psychologist? The teacher offered. Ethan shook his head, putting on a brave face. Thank you, but that won't be necessary. My wife and I are working through this. Leo is a happy child, isn't he? Oh yes, very, Ms. Albright confirmed quickly. He's bright, energetic, and has lots of friends. Good, Ethan said, standing up with Leo in his arms. Please let me know if anything like this happens again. But, could we keep this between us? I don't want him to be labeled. Of course, Mr. Miller. We understand completely. Outside, Ethan set Leo down. Are you hungry? How about we get some ice cream? Yes. Leo's troubles were instantly forgotten. Can I get chocolate fudge brownie? You got it, Ethan said, kissing his cheek. You did a great job on your drawing today. In the car, Leo was licking his ice cream cone when he asked, Dad, why do I have two daddies? Ethan's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Who told you that you have two daddies? I figured it out, Leo said with the simple logic of a child. There's a good daddy, that's you, and a bad daddy, that's Uncle Marcus. Right. Ethan didn't answer right away. In the rearview mirror, he saw his son's innocent, expectant eyes. For a split second, he felt a wave of something he couldn't name. Guilt? Regret? But it was quickly submerged by the cold tide of his mission. Families come in all shapes and sizes, buddy, he said finally. The only thing that matters is knowing who really loves you. Leo seemed to accept this and went back to his ice cream. Ethan, meanwhile, was already calculating how to leverage the day's events. The school now had a documented incident. The teachers now had a narrative about Chloe's complicated past. It was all ammunition for the custody battle to come. When he got home, his phone rang. It was David Chun, his psychiatrist friend. David, Ethan, you got a minute? His friend's voice was dead serious. We need to talk. Now. What's up? I just finished a session with a new patient, David said, his voice low. A doctor from Lakeshore University Medical Center. She's having an anxiety attack, and she mentioned a few things you might be interested in. Ethan's blood ran cold. Who? A DR. Sarah Jenkins. She works with Chloe. She said the whole hospital is in an uproar over the Thorne investigation, and she mentioned the special relationship between him and your wife. David paused. More importantly, she said Chloe has been taking large doses of Xanax, prescribed under Thorne's name. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Xanax, a powerful, addictive anti-anxiety drug. Thorne illegally prescribing it to Chloe was another nail in his coffin. Are you there? David asked. I'm here, Ethan replied. Thanks for the intel. Ethan, David hesitated. You haven't done anything reckless, have you? Ethan glanced in the rearview mirror at Leo's happy, chocolate-smeared face. I'm just collecting evidence, David. All legally. Listen, as your friend, I'm telling you again, stop this. Revenge won't make you feel better. Just divorce her and move on. Some things can't be fixed with a divorce, Ethan said, and hung up. He turned to Leo with a bright smile. We're home, champ. Let's go surprise Mia with some ice cream. That evening, for the first time in weeks, Chloe came home on time. She looked like a ghost. The dark circles under her eyes were now deep, bruised-looking hollows, and her right hand had a slight, persistent tremor, a side effect of the Xanax. Mommy, Leo ran to her with his drawing. Look what I made today. Chloe's face cracked into a weak smile as she took the paper. When she saw the drawing, the color drained from her face. What? What is this? It's my family, Leo explained. The bad daddy is hurting you, and I'm crying. The paper fluttered from her trembling hands. Her head snapped up, her eyes locking on Ethan, filled with a mixture of terror and accusation. The preschool called me in for a meeting today, Ethan said calmly, tying a bib on Mia. They're concerned about Leo's psychological well-being. What have you been telling my son? She hissed, her voice raspy. Our son. Ethan corrected her gently. I simply told them the truth, that you have a complicated past. She collapsed into a chair as if her bones had dissolved. You can't do this. Dinner's ready, Ethan said, pushing a plate toward her. He turned to the kids. Guess what I made? Mac and cheese with hot dogs. The meal was surreal. Leo and Mia chattered away, oblivious. Chloe chewed her food mechanically, her eyes vacant. And Ethan played the part of the perfect father, serving everyone, wiping spills, and keeping the conversation light. Later, while he was putting the kids to bed, Chloe searched his briefcase. She found not a shred of incriminating evidence, only a book titled Healing a Child's Emotional Trauma and a list of the preschool teacher's phone numbers, props he had planted earlier. Looking for something? He asked, appearing suddenly in the bedroom doorway. She jumped. No. Just a pen. He walked over to her and gently lifted her chin. Her pupils were dilated, her breathing shallow, classic signs of someone taking too much of their medication. How many did you take today? He asked softly. What? What are you talking about? The Xanax. How many? Panic flared in her eyes. How did you know? Because I care about you, Ethan said, releasing her. He went to the medicine cabinet and took out the bottle she had hidden. He counted the remaining pills. For a day, that's way over the safe dosage. Thorne should know better. Give that back, she lunged for the bottle. He sidestepped her easily, pocketing the bottle. From now on, I'll be holding on to these. 1 in the morning, that's it. You have no right. As your husband, it's my duty to keep you safe. His voice turned sharp. Or would you prefer I report Thorne to the medical board for illegally prescribing controlled substances? Given his current situation, I wonder how that would go over. She crumpled as if he'd struck her. What do you want from me? It's simple, he said, guiding her to the bed. 1, you cut off all contact with Thorne. 2, you cooperate with me in helping our children heal. And 3, you take your medication as prescribed and stay lucid. And then what? And then we'll see, he said with that same cryptic smile. Now go take a bath. You need to relax. The moment the shower started, Ethan moved. He took out the spare phone he kept hidden in his closet, photographed the Xanax bottle, making sure Thorne's name on the prescription label was clear, then put the bottle back. His performance had been a ruse to get one more piece of evidence. By the time Chloe emerged from the bathroom, Ethan was back in his office, cataloging the day's acquisitions. Leo's drawing was scanned and labeled school record, child psychological evaluation. The photos of the pill bottle went into a folder marked medical evidence. His revenge was coming together beautifully. Thorne was under investigation. Chloe was on the verge of a breakdown. The children were already rejecting their biological father. Everything was going according to plan. Late that night, a muffled sob woke him. He followed the sound to the kids' room. Chloe was kneeling by Leo's bed, her shoulders shaking. In the moonlight, she looked like a ghost, her fingers tracing the boy's brow, Thorne's brow. Ethan watched from the doorway, feeling nothing but a cold, hard satisfaction. This was what she deserved, to feel the same agony she had inflicted on him. She turned suddenly and saw him. They stared at each other across the dark room, their expressions mirroring each other, not with love, but with fear and a chilling resolve. He's going to hate me forever, she mouthed, pointing at their sleeping son. Ethan didn't reply. He simply turned and walked away. The answer was obvious. Yes, the children would hate her, just as he did. That was the point. Back in his own room, he sent a text to Rick, the PI, step up surveillance on Thorne's other women, especially the farmer rep, and keep a close eye on Chloe. She might do something desperate. He stood by the window, looking at the moon. Tomorrow was another day, another milestone. Thorne's official ethics committee hearing was scheduled for the afternoon, and he had already set the stage to ensure that not only would Chloe be there, but the children would accidentally witness something very, very educational. Revenge, he thought, was a dish best served cold. Chapter 7, the official summons for the hospital ethics committee hearing arrived on Monday morning. Ethan had known about it for days via Chloe's synced phone, but he feigned ignorance as he watched her tear open the envelope with trembling fingers. "What's that?" he asked, sipping his coffee. The color drained from her face. "Nothing. Just a mandatory hospital meeting tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" Ethan frowned. "But tomorrow is Mia's preschool field day. You promised her you'd be there for the parent-child race." Chloe's knuckles were white as she crumpled the letter. I'll have to miss it." Ethan walked over and pretended to read the paper over her shoulder. "Hearing regarding disciplinary action for Dr. Marcus Thorne." He read aloud. "This isn't just a meeting, Chloe. As his direct report, you have to be there, right?" She looked up, startled. "How did you know I was his direct report?" "You mentioned it once," he lied smoothly. "Said he was your mentor in charge of your promotions." "Don't worry about Mia. I'll explain it to her. Work comes first." Her lips parted as if to protest, but she just nodded. She was trapped. Attending meant publicly aligning herself with Thorne's scandal. Not attending would look like an admission of guilt. "Oh, by the way," Ethan added, as if an idea had just struck him, "Leo's been complaining of a stomachache. I'm going to take him to get it checked out tomorrow afternoon." "What time does your pediatric department close?" 5. She answered automatically. Then her eyes narrowed. "Why are you coming to my hospital? The clinic near our house is fine." "Lakeshore has the best pediatricians in the city, right?" he said with an innocent shrug. "Besides, I figured we could pick you up after his appointment." "No." Her response was sharp and immediate. "The hearing, it could go on for hours. You should just go home." Ethan nodded, not pushing the issue. He turned back to the kitchen, a cold smile on his lips. Her resistance was perfect. It would make the impending coincidence all the more believable. That night, after everyone was asleep, Ethan sat in his office, reviewing his plan. He opened a file on his laptop named D-Day, which contained a detailed timeline, maps of the hospital corridors, and contingency plans. He double-checked the key variables. The hearing began at 3 p.m. and was scheduled for a recess around 4:30. Thorne, a heavy smoker when stressed, favored the deserted west stairwell. Chloe, in her panic state, would almost certainly try to speak with Thorne during the recess. He closed the laptop and walked to the kids' room. In the soft glow of the nightlight, they looked so peaceful. For a fleeting moment, a sliver of doubt pierced his resolve. Was the pain he was about to inflict on them truly necessary? The doubt was quickly extinguished by the memory of the betrayal. He closed their door gently and returned to his bedroom. Chloe was lying with her back to him, her breathing too even to be natural. They lay there, inches apart, in the silent cold of their shared bed. The next morning, Chloe left early, claiming she needed to prepare. Ethan took the kids to school, went to his office, and then left at noon. He picked up both Leo and Mia. There was no field day, of course. That had been a lie to set the stage. "Dad, my tummy doesn't hurt," Leo said from the back seat. "Sometimes tummy aches come and go," Ethan said cheerfully. "A quick checkup will make sure everything's okay." He timed their arrival for 3:30 p.m., well after the hearing had started. The pediatric checkup was uneventful. Leo was perfectly healthy, but Ethan made sure to get a prescription for some probiotics to maintain the charade. "Okay, guys, let's go surprise Mommy," he said afterward. "She's in a boring meeting upstairs. Let's go rescue her." The kids giggled. He took them up to the administration floor and made a point of walking down the west corridor toward the stairwell. As they approached, they could hear muffled, angry voices from inside. Ethan put a finger to his lips, signaling for quiet, and pushed the heavy fire door open just a crack. Through the gap, Thorne and Chloe were visible on the landing. Thorne was chain-smoking, his face flushed with anger. Chloe was in tears. "You have to back me up in there," Thorne hissed, grabbing Chloe's wrist. "Your signature is on half of those procurement orders. If they say it's bribery, you're going down with me." "How can I back you up?" she cried, pulling her arm free. "You took the money, Marcus, not me." "Don't forget who's been writing your Xanax scripts," he snarled. "If I tell them about your little addiction, you can kiss your medical license goodbye." Chloe staggered back as if he'd struck her. At that exact moment, Mia let out a loud sneeze. Both adults whipped around and saw Ethan and the two children standing in the doorway. The world seemed to stop. Chloe's face was a kaleidoscope of horror, shame, and despair. Thorne's expression flickered before settling into a weak, false smile. Leo clutched Ethan's pants while Mia blinked, confused. "Mommy," Leo asked, his voice small. "Why are you crying? Is Uncle Marcus being mean to you?" Chloe was frozen, speechless. Thorne quickly tried to recover. "Hey, Leo, your mom and I were just talking about work stuff." "You're a liar," Leo suddenly shouted, his face turning red. "I heard you. You were yelling at Mommy. You're a bad man." Thorne's smile vanished. He reached out a hand toward Leo, but the boy scrambled behind Ethan's legs. "Leo, that's not polite," Ethan said, his tone mild, a perfect imitation of a concerned father. "Uncle Marcus is just under a lot of stress." "We're going home," Chloe choked out. She tried to take the children's hands, but Leo pulled away. "No, I want to stay with Daddy," he cried, clinging to Ethan's leg. "Uncle Marcus is a bad guy. He made Mommy cry." A few nurses had stopped in the hallway, whispering and staring. Thorne muttered a curse under his breath and stormed off down the stairs. Ethan picked up Mia and took Leo's hand. "Come on, guys. Let's go home." The car ride was suffocatingly silent. Leo stared out the window. Mia looked from one parent to the other, and Chloe sat rigid in the passenger seat, her hands clenched into fists. As they pulled into the driveway, Leo finally spoke. "Mom, why was Uncle Marcus so mean to you?" Chloe didn't answer, but a single tear traced a path down her cheek. In the rearview mirror, Ethan saw the look on Leo's face, the dawning, painful understanding of a child seeing the ugliness of the adult world for the first time. Inside, Ethan sent the kids to their room. "We need to talk," he said to Chloe. She sank onto the sofa. "You planned this. You knew about the hearing." "Of course I did," he said calmly. "Just like I know about every secret meeting you've had for the last 5 years, every dollar Thorne gave you, and every pill he illegally prescribed." Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with disbelief. You were spying on me." "I was protecting my family," he said, walking toward his office. "Come with me." He opened his laptop and clicked on the encrypted folder. Inside were hundreds of files, photos, videos, audio recordings, bank statements, pharmacy records. 5 years of deceit, meticulously documented. What is all this?" she whispered. "Leverage," he said. "Enough to prove adultery and paternity fraud. Enough to make sure Marcus Thorne not only loses his job and his license, but likely faces criminal charges." Her face was ashen. "What do you want?" "A divorce," he said. "And you get the kids." This she hadn't expected. You don't want them. They're not my kids, remember?" His voice was like ice. "The DNA test proves they're yours and Thorne's. You two want to be a family so badly? Congratulations. Now you can be." She fell to her knees, sobbing. "No, please. The kids love you. They don't know." "Oh, Leo knows Thorne is the bad daddy," Ethan said cruelly. "That's what all my stories have been about for the past few months." The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place for her. You've been brainwashing them." "I've been telling them the truth," he corrected her. "The truth about the kind of man their biological father is, and the choices their mother made." "You can't do this to them," she begged. "They're just children. You'll ruin their lives." He looked down at her without a trace of pity. "When you were lying in his bed, did you ever stop to think whose life you were ruining? When you let me raise another man's children, did you ever think it would end any other way?" She had no answer, only tears. Just then, the office door creaked open. Leo stood there, his small face etched with fear. "Daddy, Mommy, are you fighting?" Ethan's expression instantly softened. "No, Booty. Mommy and Daddy are just talking about grown-up things." Leo walked over and slapped Chloe's arm with his small hand. "Don't you be mean to my daddy." Chloe stared at her son in shock. Ethan picked Leo up. "It's okay, champ. Mommy wasn't being mean. We just have to solve a problem." "Like in the story?" Leo asked seriously. "When the bad fox was mean to the mommy sheep, and the good wolf came to help." A knot tightened in Ethan's gut. To hear the child parrot his manipulated narrative so perfectly was suddenly jarring. Something like that, he managed to say. "Now go play with your sister. We need to talk alone." Leo nodded and ran out. Chloe watched him go, the despair in her eyes absolute. "You see," Ethan said coldly, "it's done. They see him as the villain and me as the hero. Even if you tell them the truth now, they won't believe you." She lunged, grabbing his arm. "Give me another chance. Please." I can cut Marcus out of my life. We can move away. We can. And pretend none of this ever happened. He shook her off. It's too late, Chloe. From the moment I found that phone, there was only ever going to be one ending. Then at least don't take their love for you away from them, she wept. They need you. They need me, he laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. Or they need a placeholder, a temporary dad to do all the hard work until Thorne decided it was convenient to step in. She was silent. He turned his back on her. My lawyer will be in touch tomorrow. You can take the children and your personal belongings. The house and our savings are mine. If you or Thorne fight me on this, I release all of this evidence to the public. He'll go to jail, she whispered. He deserves it, Ethan said, turning for one last look at the woman who had been his wife. And so do you. That night, Ethan slept in his office. In the dead of night, he checked the live camera feed. Chloe was sitting on the floor in the kids' room, watching them sleep. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. In his sleep, Leo murmured, "Bad daddy," while Mia turned over, her small hand reaching for something that was no longer there. Ethan closed the feed and opened a new document. He began to type up the divorce settlement. The sound of the keyboard was the only sound in the house, each keystroke a final, damning judgment. His revenge was complete. But the taste of victory was far more bitter than he had ever imagined. Sunlight sliced through the office blinds, waking Ethan. His neck was stiff from a night spent on the sofa. He checked his phone. 6:15 a.m. 3 new text from Rick, the PI. Thorne officially suspended pending full investigation. Hospital board meeting this a.m. to discuss his termination. His wife filed for divorce. She's lawyering up. A cold smile touched Ethan's lips. He padded quietly to the kitchen and started making breakfast, pancakes, bacon, and 4 glasses of orange juice. It would likely be their last meal as a family. As the bacon sizzled, Chloe appeared in the doorway. Her eyes were red and swollen, her face pale. She clutched her phone in a white-knuckled grip. Marcus was suspended, she said, her voice a dry rasp. His wife found out about everything. She's leaving him. Ethan didn't turn around. I'm not surprised. This was you. It wasn't a question. The ethics committee doesn't launch a full-scale investigation based on rumors, he said, sliding the bacon onto a paper towel. He did this to himself. She rushed forward, grabbing his arm. Please, stop this. It's not too late. Marcus said he'd pay you. A settlement. Ethan finally turned, his gaze so frigid she instinctively let go. How much is he offering? 80,000. 100. The same amount he's given you over the years. She staggered back as if he'd slapped her. You. How did you know? I know everything, he said, turning off the stove. I know he has at least 3 other women. I know he's taken over $200,000 in kickbacks from pharma companies. And I know the Xanax he gave you was stolen from the hospital pharmacy. She stared at him, her face a mask of defeat. Go get the kids, he said calmly. Breakfast is ready. The meal was a surreal performance. Leo chattered about a new dinosaur book, and Mia smeared syrup all over her face, both blissfully unaware of the silent war raging between their parents. Chloe ate mechanically, her eyes vacant. Ethan played the part of the perfect father, cutting up pancakes, wiping faces, and mediating a dispute over the last piece of bacon. Dad, can you take us to school today? Leo asked. Of course, Ethan smiled, then looked at Chloe. Mom has a lot to do today. She looked up, a flicker of panic in her eyes. She knew what he meant. Today was the end. After dropping the kids off, Ethan drove to his lawyer's office. Ben Carter had the divorce papers ready. It's clean, just like you wanted, Ben said, pushing his glasses up. Custody of the children goes to her. You waive all visitation rights. The house and all joint assets go to you. Standard non-disparagement clause. Ethan nodded, added a stipulation. Thorne and his family are to have no contact with the children. That's not really enforceable, Ben said. Then make it a financial penalty, Ethan countered. If Thorne or his family are found to have contact, she forfeits 50% of all assets acquired during our marriage. Ben scribbled a note. That works. Anything else? Ethan thought for a moment. A non-disclosure agreement. She is not to reveal to anyone, including the children, the specific timeline of when I knew the truth about their paternity. Are you sure about waiving visitation? Ben asked gently. Even if they aren't biologically yours, you raised them. That's exactly why. Ethan's voice was sharp. I won't watch them grow up under Thorne's influence, only to end up hating me. Ben wisely dropped the subject. An hour later, Ethan left with the signed documents. He drove to a quiet park and called Rick. What's the latest on Thorne? He's radioactive. No one will touch him, Rick said, a hint of amusement in his voice. Even better, his other mistresses are coming out of the woodwork. It's a total circus. Has Chloe contacted him? Tried calling 3 times last night. He didn't pick up. She sent a text this morning asking, what about the kids? Ethan scoffed. So our good doctor is cutting his losses. One more thing. His wife got her hands on evidence of his financial crimes. She's threatening to go to the police. This could get a lot bigger. Good, Ethan said. Keep an eye on Chloe's movements. He hung up and opened the photo gallery on his phone. Pictures of the kids flooded the screen. Leo laughing on a swing set. Mia's proud face after taking her first steps. Both of them curled up together listening to a story. He stared for a long moment, then decisively closed the app and dialed Chloe's number. Be home at noon. We need to finish this. Her reply was a tired, defeated. Okay. At 12:30, they sat across from each other in the living room. Ethan slid the divorce papers across the coffee table. Sign it. It's better for everyone. She didn't look at the papers. She looked at him. Have you told the children? No, he said. I thought that honor should be yours. What am I supposed to tell them? Her voice trembled. That their father doesn't want them anymore. Tell them the truth, he said coldly. Tell them their real father is Marcus Thorne, and that you and I don't love each other anymore. She scrambled across the floor and grabbed his pant leg. Please, don't do this. We can fix this. I'll do anything. He looked down at her with utter detachment. It's too late, Chloe. This was over the day you decided to lie to me. Then at least, let them think you're their father, she wept. They love you. They can't lose you. No, he said, his voice flat and final. I want them to grow up knowing that it was you and Marcus Thorne who took that away from them. She collapsed, sobbing. He waited until her cries subsided. I'm giving you 3 days to find a new place. I'll take the kids out this weekend, so you can move your things. I want the signed papers on my desk by Monday. You're kicking us out? She asked, her voice hollow with disbelief. The house is in my name, remember? He said with a cruel smirk. You were the one who insisted we buy in this neighborhood. So close to the hospital. So convenient for your trysts with Thorne. She had no reply, only silent tears. He stood up and walked to the door. I have to get back to work. Leave the papers in the office when you're done. Ethan, she called out. Did you ever, even for a moment, love them? Leo and Mia? His hand paused on the doorknob. He didn't turn around. It's because I love them that I have to end this lie. The click of the door, closing, echoed in the empty room like a final judgment. The next 3 days passed in a strange, suffocating calm. In front of the children, Ethan and Chloe were civil, but the space between them was a vacuum. On Friday night, Ethan watched on a hidden camera as Chloe packed. He saw her carefully fold the children's clothes into a suitcase before breaking down, clutching one of Leo's small T-shirts and weeping. He closed the laptop, went to the balcony, and lit a cigarette. The night sky was starless, covered by a thick blanket of clouds. A storm was coming. On Saturday morning, Ethan announced a surprise trip to a new theme park. The kids were ecstatic. Is Mommy coming? Leo asked, noticing Chloe was still in her pajamas. She forced a smile. Mommy has some things she needs to do. You guys have fun with Dad. We'll send you pictures, Leo said, giving her a fierce hug. Ethan saw her hold on for a moment too long, her eyes squeezed shut. As she let go, a tear escaped. Why is Mommy crying? Mia asked. Mommy just has something in her eye, she said, wiping her cheek. Go on now. Ethan was the perfect father that day. He rode every ride, won them oversized stuffed animals, and bought them all the junk food they wanted. When Leo picked out an expensive toy at the gift shop, Ethan paid for it without a word. Dad, you're the best today, Leo said on the drive home. Ethan looked at his son's beaming face in the rearview mirror, a lump forming in his throat. Daddy, might have to be really busy with work for a while. I might not be able to play as much. That's okay, Leo said. You can take us again when you're not busy. Soon, both kids were asleep in the back, worn out from the day. The radio played an old song he and Chloe used to love. It felt like a message from a different lifetime. When they got home, the house was silent. But it was different. Chloe's shoes were gone from the entryway. A few picture frames were missing from the wall. The air was missing her jasmine-scented perfume. He carried the sleeping children to their beds, tucked them in, and kissed their foreheads. Then he gently shook Leo awake. "Daddy," the boy mumbled. "I need to tell you something important," Ethan said softly. Leo sat up, rubbing his eyes. "Starting tomorrow, you and Mia are going to be living with Mommy," Ethan said, his voice steady. "Daddy won't be living with you anymore." The sleepiness vanished from Leo's eyes. "Why? Sometimes grown-ups have problems that mean they can't live together anymore," Ethan said carefully. "But you have to know that I will always love you and Mia." "Okay, is it because of Uncle Marcus?" Leo asked. "Is he the bad guy who broke our family?" The question was a physical blow. He didn't answer directly. "Some things are complicated. You'll understand when you're older. For now, just remember how much I love you." "Will I ever see you again?" Leo's voice trembled. Ethan hesitated, then decided on a piece of the truth. "Leo, did you know that some kids have two daddies? A birth dad and the dad who raises them. Uncle Marcus, he's your birth dad." Leo's eyes grew wide. "So, you're not my real daddy." "I am," Ethan said fiercely. "I was the one who changed your diapers and gave you your bottle. I was the one who taught you how to ride a bike and stayed up all night with you when you were sick. Blood doesn't make a father, Leo. Love does." Tears finally spilled down the boy's cheeks. "I don't want him to be my daddy. I want you." Ethan pulled him into a tight hug, hiding his own wet eyes. "We don't always get to choose, buddy. But you can choose to remember that there was a man who wasn't your birth father, but who loved you more than anything in the world." Leo cried until he fell asleep again in Ethan's arms. Ethan laid him down gently and tucked a letter he had written under the boy's pillow. He went to the master bedroom. It was half empty. On his pillow was an envelope containing the signed divorce papers and the house key. In the empty closet, a small box sat on the floor, the diamond necklace from their 5th anniversary. He picked it up. The diamonds felt cold. With a sudden, violent motion, he threw it against the wall. The chain snapped, and the diamonds scattered across the floor. He sat on the edge of the bed and buried his face in his hands. Where was the triumph? The relief? All he felt was a crushing, cavernous emptiness. His phone buzzed. A text from Rick. Chloe moved into a small apartment near the hospital. Thorne's wife just went to the police. He's being investigated for bigamy and embezzlement. Ethan typed back a single word, "Continue." Then he went to his office and uploaded the final batch of evidence to the authorities and the hospital's internal server. It was done. He had won. But as he looked around the silent, empty house, he wasn't sure what victory felt like. Outside, lightning split the sky, followed by a low rumble of thunder. The storm had finally broken. Chapter 9. The divorce was finalized in 4 days. When his lawyer, Ben, called to tell him, he sounded shocked. That's a record. It usually takes weeks. The evidence was overwhelming, and she didn't contest it, Ethan said, watching the traffic crawl along the street below his office window. It's not surprising. He hung up and logged onto the Lakeshore University Medical Center employee forum. The anonymous post he'd made last night was the top trending topic, an evidence-based review of Dr. Marcus Thorne's unethical conduct. It had thousands of views. He scrolled through the contents, the video of the bribe, the proof of embezzlement, the photos of Thorne with multiple female employees. Tucked among them were a few clips of Thorne and Chloe together, along with their prescription records for Xanax. The comments section was a bloodbath. Anonymity had emboldened everyone. The most upvoted comment, with over 200 likes, read, "No wonder Dr. Davis got promoted so fast. Slept her way to the top." Ethan closed the browser and called Rick. "What's the situation?" "It's a 5-alarm fire," Rick said gleefully. Thorne was taken into police custody this morning for questioning. His wife and kids are already on a flight to Europe. As for Chloe, she didn't even show up to work today. And the kids, with her at the new apartment. My guy saw her at the grocery store yesterday buying mac and cheese and juice boxes. Looks like money is tight. Ethan was silent for a moment. "Keep an eye on them. Let me know if the kids need anything." After the call, he took out a prepaid debit card from his desk drawer. It had a balance of $20,000. He put it in an envelope, addressed it to Chloe's new apartment, and called a courier. "It's an important document," he said. "Make sure she signs for it herself." With that done, a strange listlessness settled over him. The mission was complete. The 5-year lie had been avenged. But the victory felt hollow, leaving a void where his life used to be. The house was the worst part. It was silent and sterile. No little footsteps running to greet him, no smell of dinner cooking, no sign of life at all. He walked into the kids' room, which he'd left untouched. A few Lego blocks were still scattered on the rug. On the small art easel was an unfinished drawing of 3 stick figures. The one in the middle, had its arms outstretched, as if protecting the 2 smaller ones. His phone rang. It was David, his psychiatrist friend. He almost didn't answer. "I heard it's official," David said. "It is. How are you holding up?" Ethan laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "I won. I got the house, the money, and my freedom. I'm great." There was a pause. "And the kids?" "They're with their mother," Ethan said, his voice hard. "A perfect ending." "Ethan," David sighed, "you know you don't have to pretend with me." He suddenly crushed the drawing in his fist. "The truth is, I did everything right," he snapped. "I exposed the liars and protected myself." "What's wrong with that?" "Nothing," David said softly. "Except the kids paid the price, too." The words were a dagger. Ethan ended the call and hurled his phone against the wall, where it shattered. That night, he found himself watching old security footage. A clip from 3 months ago showed a normal evening. The kids playing on the floor, Chloe cooking, him working in his office. A life that had seemed real. He almost deleted the files, but couldn't. He encrypted the folder and buried it deep on a backup drive. The hospital scandal became front-page news. Thorne was arrested, facing charges of embezzlement and bigamy. Chloe's name was kept out of the papers, but her career was over. She officially resigned. Rick's reports became routine. Chloe found a part-time admin job. The kids started at a new public school. She sold her diamond necklace. 3 months later, Ethan saw them. It was a Sunday afternoon at a grocery store. He was standing in the dairy aisle when he heard a small voice. "Mommy, can I have this one?" He turned. Mia was holding up a carton of strawberry yogurt. She was taller, her hair in pigtails, her pink coat a little too short at the wrists. A few feet away, Chloe was comparing prices on laundry detergent. She was thinner, her hair cut short, her face pale and devoid of makeup. He should have walked away, but he was frozen. Then Mia turned and saw him. Her face lit up. "Daddy!" The sound echoed in the quiet aisle. Chloe dropped the detergent, her head snapping up. Mia was already running, launching herself into Ethan's arms as he instinctively knelt to catch her. "Daddy, I missed you," she squealed, hugging his neck tightly. "You were hiding for a long, long time." A lump formed in his throat. Chloe rushed over, her face ashen. "Mia, honey, let go of the nice man." "He's not a man, he's my daddy," Mia insisted, clinging tighter. "Leo, I found him." Leo appeared from the next aisle, stopping short when he saw Ethan. His expression was a storm of emotions. Shock, joy, confusion, and something else Ethan couldn't read. "Leo," Ethan whispered. "You're not my daddy," Leo said, his voice trembling but firm. "Mommy said so. She said Uncle Marcus is my real dad." Chloe looked like she'd been slapped. "Leo, don't." "But he doesn't want us," the boy continued, his eyes welling with tears. "He told Mommy we were a mistake." The ambient noise of the supermarket faded away. Ethan looked at the 2 children, one hugging him with desperate love, the other rejecting him with desperate pain. He looked at Chloe and saw the same hopeless agony in her eyes. I bought you guys some new toys," he finally managed, pulling the debit card from his pocket and tucking it into Leo's coat. "I never got a chance to give them to you." Leo's eyes flickered with a brief spark of interest before he looked away. "Mommy says we can't take things from strangers." "Daddy's not a stranger," Mia cried. Chloe took a deep breath and gently pried Mia's arms from his neck. "Thank you," she whispered, "but we don't need it." "It's not for you," Ethan said, his eyes on the children. "It's for them." She didn't argue. She took each child by the hand and started to walk away. Mia kept looking back. "Is Daddy coming home with us?" Ethan didn't answer. He just watched them go. That night, he went to the safe in his office and took out the box containing all the original evidence. He sifted through it all one last time, reliving every step of his perfect, meticulous revenge. He picked up the paternity test. Probability of paternity, 0%. The words that had started it all. He took the report and a lighter out to the balcony. The night was cold. He lit a corner of the paper and watched the flames consume the words, the ashes turning to smoke and disappearing into the dark. At that moment, he realized revenge wasn't sweet. It wasn't bitter. It was just empty, and it was a dish he would have to eat alone for the rest of his life.